Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, I'm going to date stamp this. It's year 5, blog 4, or in legacy numbers, blog number 212, and it's dated the 15th of March, 2026. And it's going to be a totally different blog today. I'm doing this as early as possible, and you'll see reasons for that, and it'll be a much probably shorter blog because of things that have happened this week. I will, however, start off with the news. Everything will become apparent on why this is like this today. So the news: Trump has urged the UK to send warships to the Strait of Hormuz to defend oil shipping routes amid ongoing conflict with Iran. Discussions are continuing. Chancellor Rachel Reeves is preparing targeted support for households as fuel and energy costs surge due to the Middle East conflict. Fuel prices at the pumps have soared this week from an average of $1.34 a litre to $1.60 plus. The Lib Dems have proposed that the UK develop independent nuclear missiles to reduce the reliance on the USA. France has secured the 2026 Six Nations rugby title with a narrow 48-46 victory over England in Paris last night. And Arsenal's Max Doman, aged 16, became the youngest scorer in Premier League history during their win against Everton. And out of all of that, all I've been thinking of really is, and I think everybody else has, is the war and fuel prices. I've noticed it. It's astronomical what's going on, and what's disgusting is certain fuel pump stations around the country have exploited this, even though the barrel of oil has gone up and gone back down and then back up again. So in other words, spiking and dropping. Some fuel pumps even increase their prices to 180, even though there were drops. 180 a litre. I mean, you work that out. I mean, our American friends buy everything by the gallon. So what is there? 4.5 litres or something to the gallon. So if you think of how much the pound is, everything I was stating there was is in our British pounds. So £1.34, £1.60 a litre. You'll see it's an astronomical change to us. And it's causing panic and all sorts of stuff like it always does. And greed, pure greed, with increasing the prices before they need to. But it's just ridiculous. I believe a lot of my friends have been discussing this in Discords and stuff. I haven't been able to read an awful lot of it because of my own issues this week, which I will come to very, very shortly, because the next thing I usually talk about is my week, my mum's week, and what's happened at work. But this all changed Sunday night, and I'll elaborate now. So Sunday was a normal time. I did my blog, settled down for the evening with my mum, watched a bit of TV. It came to the point where my mum needed to go to bed. As always, we get my mother up by using a machine and a wheelchair to get her up because she's very stiff in the morning. In the evening, even though we had a physio visit the week before, and you can look at the previous blog for that, encouragement is there to exercise her legs and to walk, and my mother just did her normal I want to walk to bed aspect to it all. So as always, I've got my phone in my pocket. I always have my phone just in case anything, I need to make any emergency calls. It's just something that you do. as a carer. I was walking behind my mother, which I've been doing for a few weeks now, as I've noticed her getting a bit slower to walk. It's the telltale sign, which is why I'm a bit riddled with guilt. So I was walking behind her. She was going a bit slower. And it's a walk from one living room to another. That's the distance. But you have to go through 2 doors. So she got through the living room okay. She started to slow down in the hallway. And as we got through to the door to go into the bedroom where the commode is to get washed and everything, she got to just before the side of the bed, so very far in, and her left leg gave. She actually, the left leg slipped to the left. And I was as quick as I could to act, and I managed to get my arms under her armpits, but she collapsed, and she was, she's about 9 stone, something like that, 8 stone, 9 stone. And I toppled backwards because I was leaning forwards, and the weight coming onto me, and she fell onto my chest with the left leg going against my left leg, so it splayed to the left. But the right leg, no, it was the left leg that collapsed, also went to the right, so her legs went spread eagled, and she landed on me. Now, I felt pain, but nothing like, my feelings for my mother. And it took I had to sort of like move out from underneath her so that I could get my feet firmly on the floor and pick her up and get her to the edge of the bed. And this took several attempts and was very painful for my mum. My mother was going, oh no, all of that sort of stuff. And I managed to get her to the edge of the bed, but she could have toppled forward. She was right on the edge. Even though the bed you could lower and higher, I couldn't get it low enough for me to actually get her up, because if you think about it, I'd have to be in front of her to do that, and that means dropping her again and all sorts of other stuff. Plus, I've got sciatica, so I managed to get her onto the edge, and I, managed to get the machine to her just before anything else could happen, the sliding and forward and all of that sort of stuff. But my mother had no power to lift herself up. And this caused me a lot of distress. It was like, what's happened to my mum's legs? What if she slips forward? I can't get her into bed. What should I do? So I phoned 111. Phone 111 and went through all sorts of the questions that they ask. Is your mum's skin clammy? Is there any bleeding, etc., etc.? But I managed to get to the end and talk to the guy and tell him exactly what's happened. And he understood the problem. He wanted to go and speak to a colleague and said that he would get help, but advised me to put the phone down and phone 999, for which I did, and had to go through the same questions again. All of this time, I've got this, what they call the ROS, we call the ROS machine, this climbing frame thing in front. And I had my foot on the platform because it's on wheels and it has locks. But on our tiled floor, one of the wheels can move forward. So if I moved my foot, I feared that it would move away from her and she'd fall on it and then fall onto that piece of equipment. So I phoned 999 and I told them the situation. And it took a long time to go through all those questions again. And they said they would send someone as fast as possible, could take up to 2 hours. But they did ask me if I wanted them to phone a neighbour, for which I did. I asked them to phone our next door neighbour. And it's amazing that they've got these numbers. They did that, and my next door neighbour came in, saw the situation, and we both managed to get my mum's bum and body onto the edge of the bed. I moved the Ross machine out the way, and we managed to twist my mother into the bed. Absolutely fantastic that happened. And then the paramedics turned up about, 40 minutes later. And they helped put a pad on my mum, check the knees and all this sort of stuff. They're not carers. They only do emergency stuff. And they advised me to give her some painkillers tonight, which I always did, but more. In other words, increase by another tablet and see what it's like in the morning. I immediately after getting my mum comfortable, and by this time, by the way, it's gone midnight, nearly 1 o'clock. I phoned my sister, told her not to panic and say that I've got my mum into bed, which I had, and that the paramedics had been and they noted that she was comfortable and that we needed to observe things that were going on in the morning. So that's Sunday. Wait for it. There's a lot more to follow. So in the morning, I had the similar sort of like situation as when my dad died, where I could hardly move. I was stiff, but I put some painkillers in and took gabapentin and managed to walk off an awful lot. And my sister came in and, you know, she looked and said how comfortable or, you know, sort of quiet my mum was. That's the word, quiet and sedate. And I phoned at work and told them that I was not very well, which I wasn't. I'm in discomfort now. You'll probably see me moving an awful lot during this. And they wanted to know whether I wanted to have days off or sick. And I said, well, I can hardly sit down. So I'm going to, if I can't have compassionate leave for this, I'll have sickness. I haven't had a sickie since, well, the grievance that started this blog, to be quite honest. And before that, I hadn't had a sick day in 10 years. So, and that's true. My record shows over 10 years to have even one day off. So, where was I with it? Yeah. So work knew, and I said that I'd update them on Wednesday because I'm bound sure to need a couple of days. Spoke to my sister and I said I had to go and get my medicine, and I went down to get my prescription. Now, while I was down to get my medicine, for which they, by the way, missed one whole set of tablets out, that's another story, so I was down there for over an hour. I came up and my sister was telling me all sorts of problems. She said my mother's skin was clammy, sweaty. She was cold to the touch. Breathing was laboured. And she asked me if I thought we needed the ambulance. I said, oh, of course. And the ambulance was called. I went into my room because I needed to go to the toilet. By the time I came back, the paramedics were there. Now, this is where it was all calamity. What I didn't know is that my sister had done CPR on my mum while we were waiting for the paramedics, because while she was on the phone to them, that's what they advised her to do. So there must have been something to do with the pulse, you know, of my mum, and the paramedics guided her through. And after they got her, a discussion was made, and it was agreed that she needed to go to the hospital immediately. It's a bit difficult here for me to remember, but they got her into the ambulance. I can't quite remember how. I think it was with their own bed. My sister went off and I walked to the hospital afterwards after I told work. I'm pretty sure that's how it went. But the important thing here is that my mum was in hospital. I joined my sister. She was then in a cubicle. and we were waiting for an x-ray. Now, we were with my mother from about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we didn't leave until 6, I think, or 7 o'clock at night. So we were there for 7 hours. They said that there was no fracture. Okay. This becomes important later on. There was no fracture, and that she was going to be moved to a ward. And we decided to leave. Now, I did everything I could here. I remember that when in the afternoon when I was phoning the work, you know, to tell them what was going on, that the other reason why I joined a little bit later on was that I made my sister a flask of tea that we could also give to my mum, and picked up some knickknacks, you know, just in case the wait was a long time. I remember that. So we came home. I drove my sister home, and we waited to Tuesday. We decided that we don't know what the hours are for the hospital visit or what ward she'd be in. So it was decided, you know, to go up there at 10 o'clock. So my sister would arrive a little bit later. Now, that meant I could prepare in the morning. I made sandwiches. Put some chocolate and a flask of tea again, and I put some mineral water for myself and possibly in case my mum needed it. And we got there, and it was a day of very little information, which was the most struggling part of all of this. My sister had already talked to one side of the family. I'd talked to my mother's side of the family to let them know what was going on. And very little happened on Monday other than waiting around. My mum was awake, in pain. We were worried about how we were going to get pads on in all of this. We saw more of the legs where the swelling was going up. All of this sort of stuff. We did get a doctor come round, and they said that there was a murmur in her heart. We don't know how long that had been there. We found out that the CT scan that had been done on her brain showed the same as it had been done a year previously. Now, we thought that sounded good, but then the doctor advised the CT scan only shows like pooling of blood and so forth. It doesn't show the deterioration of the brain naturally. And we have noticed steps down if you watch this blog for any length of time. So Tuesday again was a very lack of information, but again we told our sides of the family. I didn't want to do the talking to the family too early because we got very little information, but we kept them informed all the way from Monday. And you know, with Tuesday sort of gone, Wednesday came along, and then we got something that was pretty damning. We kept talking about the steroid injections over those last 2 days, and in a hope that we might be able to get some more, because there's, even though we'd been discussing whether she'd ever walk again and all of this, and the fact that in a bed you get things like bed sores, and changing of my mother's pads would mean that we'd need to do that while she's in her bed and all of this sort of stuff. These discussions were going on all the time between me and my sister. The doctor came in on the Wednesday and told us that she was hyper. Well, I can't remember the exact word. I always get it wrong. Hyperglemic or hyperedemic. She was. She had the underlying thing is that she's got an iron deficiency, very low. So they were talking about an iron infusion, but it was the talk about what the lack of, anemic, that was it. It's the talk of the anemic nature that said, where's that coming from? All this time, by the way, her blood pressure was okay, her temperature was okay, so we had some good signs. But he talked about some of the things that the steroid injection might have done that she's had, because she's had 2 now, 1 in each knee. And those early injections may have caused cancer. Now, that word alone just strikes terror into you. And we didn't think about all of this when we were coming home. We were in denial. The sister and I we walked back from the hospital. They talked about, has there been blood in a stool, which there hasn't been. And, so therefore it's what's causing the lack of iron. And their opinion was cancer and an internal bleed, and ours was other reasons. My mother was on iron tablets, but the pharmacists and the doctors took those away late last year. We didn't like that, but they said it was just something that she needed for a short period of time, and that prescription ran out. In fact, we had it for 4 months. That was it, 4 months, and then was taken away. It had it actually on the prescription box. So again, we had all of this time, by the way, we're not neither of us, my sister and I, are sleeping very well. I'm exhausted by this point. I continued in the evening to do my live with Ian. I needed something of a distraction, so thank God. And, Ian Hill's a godsend to me for allowing me to do that. I mentioned this to him just before we went live, and I was a bit subdued. I should think. I'd need to look back. I haven't looked back on it much. I have looked at it, but not much. And Thursday came around. Now again, we're talking cancer and all of this. My mother's skin is looking much better in colour, although my sister said that there might have been a sort of yellow tinge, giving her, I suppose, a scare on it, possibly there being jaundice. By the way, all the way through this, you might be thinking, while I'm moving like this, at this particular point, I hadn't told my sister my own health. I should have done, but I didn't. When my mother fell on me and I couldn't move very much, and I wasn't sleeping particularly well, there was blood in my own stool. And as you know, I'd had my PSA all clear type thing a couple of weeks before. And when I spoke to a nurse on Monday about me hobbling and all of that sort of stuff, she told me that I might have torn the scar tissue in my back, and to monitor it. And so Monday and Tuesday and part of Wednesday, there was blood in my stool, but it went away. And it's something that I still need to have a checkup on, I think, next week if this gets worse. But I'm just thinking of my mother at this particular point. So we've got to Thursday, and on Thursday we were told that she needed another X-ray. We didn't understand this. She'd already had these. And it was about 3 o'clock on Wednesday where they told us the really bad news. Even though they told us there was no fracture, there is a fracture, and it's in her knee. So my mum's been sitting for nearly a week with a fracture. We were quite angry about this in the evening. We weren't at the doctor or anything like this, but she explained that the X-ray that was done on Monday was on her hip, and not only her hip. Even though we were talking about the swelling on her legs, they only X-rayed the hip, and this is what makes us quite angry, because that's where most breaks occur. That's what they told us. But now they found one in her legs. a consultation would be made on Friday for where we were going to be moving forward with this. So we went away very distraught Thursday. All of this, by the way, we're doing all the normal stuff. I'm getting flasks of teas and stuff in the morning, spending a lot of time. We were there from 9-10 in the morning till about 4 or so in the afternoon. And so we came away knowing that another chapter in this story was going to happen Friday. And what I think I know that happened between Thursday and Friday is I think she was given the stuff that she needed for her iron. And we got a call Friday evening, and we were told that it's a bad break and it's a tibia and she's going to need rods. So she's going to have an operation. And this would be happening Saturday. That's how much it was needed. In this call to us, they told us bits and bobs about the operation, mortality rates, etc., all about infection. Scared us all to death. I got literally, and I do mean this, literally an hour or two of sleep at best. Through natural, probably exhaustion, just dropping off and then waking up. And I swear that will probably be the same for my sister. And Saturday was an awful day. One of the worst days I could have imagined, really. My sister was crying. I was crying. We were hugging each other. It's not the time for my mum to go. We were saying all sorts of stuff. And we went back to the wards, and my mother was quiet, still recognised us. We always go in there and say, "Who's this?" And she'd go, "Craig," and all that sort of stuff. And the doctor, the surgeon, then came round. We were concerned about the anaesthetic that was going to be used, anaesthesia. And we were telling them not to use anything with opiates in, because of our family's disagreement body-wise on how opiates do for us. We both sister and I have had bad reactions to it when we've been in our operations. And she went in. He told us he would treat my mother as if it was his mother. We couldn't get anything in regards to how long it would take. He said at minimum 2 hours. They won't know until they open up the leg what needs to be done. It's the tibia. It's a bad break, etc., etc. So we came back home. Now, we went back after, because we went into the chapel of rest at first that was in the hospital, and we did all our own little praying. Decided to go home because it was a good 2 hours. And they told us when we got back that it would be at least another 2 hours. So this operation of 2 hours is now extended to 4. But, obviously we'd heard nothing out of the operation, so she was still alive. So that was one thing. We didn't want to go back into the chapel of rest, so we went home. And, because it was a couple of hours, and I know that my sister likes to look at her phone, I sort of left her for a little while, and I went into my own room and contemplated my own thoughts on all of this. It's a little bit complicated here. I felt isolated a little bit and couldn't go and see my sister because previously we've had conversations, and you'll know this in the blog, about in an argument my sister let it clear that one side of the family in particular don't like me very much. And a family member turned up and was condoling my sister. So I couldn't leave my room, really. But that's another story. That's nothing to do with how my mother is. But I had to wait, and it was probably the longest, hardest hour of my life while I was waiting for us to go back to the hospital. So we started to go back to the hospital, and she still wasn't quite back. So we went to the chapel, and then when we came back, she was there. And there she was, little mask over her, gas, oxygen mask, not out of the days from being in an operation. We were told that the reason for the length of time was not only was a rod put into her leg, but she also had plates put around the bone. And we didn't really see the legs until we were just about to go, but we had someone come up to us and explain to us what had gone on. They checked her pupils, checked her breathing. The machines were on in regards to her blood pressure and her pulse and oxygen levels. They were all happy with that. My mother, when we spoke to her, grunted when she heard our voices, and they did the same with the nurse. And we left about, I don't know, it must have been about 6-ish. We were a bit relieved. Sunday being Mother's Day, my sister was happy that she said that she'd pick up a card for me from Sainsbury's. We can't take flowers on the ward, they're not allowed. And there was a conversation about the blog, and I said it'd probably be shorter. I'll be talking about this, but it will be what I want to portray and about my feelings. And here we are, Sunday, not knowing how good my mother's been, knowing that I can't phone the ward until a certain time. I'll be doing that shortly. And riddled with guilt this week. Could I have acted quicker? Could I have not let her walk and use the wheelchair? All of that sort of stuff. Solitude about the side of the family not liking me. All of that. The blood in the stool for me. The pain in the leg and back that I've had all week. But it's all been on my mum. Concentration on my mum. And lack of sleep, etc. Which is why things are totally different, really, in regards to how this blog's going to be, in regards to what I've watched for a start. What can you watch in a hospital? I did a little bit later on take some like earbuds and stuff, but you need the charge on your phone as much as possible. It really was a horrible time. Time goes so slowly and then so quickly at different points of the day. My leg and back, I think, are freeing up a little bit. Definitely a change from Sunday and Monday where it was terrible. I didn't let out any of this on to my sister. It was right to concentrate on my mum and not to throw more worry at my sister, regardless of how feelings might be between us. And you don't have disagreements about anything during this. Another time, another place. To quote a title of a science fiction show, Space 1999. Just trying to make light of things there a little bit. But I would not want to relive this week. And it starts making you think of your own mortality, why we're here, how you should live each day for what it is. There's a lot of relief that comes at the end of Saturday with struggles that we can meet later on, because the biggest problem is always the unknown, and the thing that you can do is work on a problem once you know what the issue is. You know, there are always ways, you know, until you run out of those ways. But what I'm talking about there is like, oh God, how are we going to care for my mother now that she can't get out of bed? Oh, well, we'll roll her on her side, we'll roll her back, we'll get advice, we'll get different pads, all of those things once you know. But if you don't know, then we didn't know that there was a fracture because we were led to believe there wasn't, then of course everything is going into your brain. It's exhausting. And if I do well up a little bit, like I feel right now when I'm talking about this, it's pure pressure cooker release of you know, that stress. I've had it before so many times, but you never get used to it. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes, and we'll continue. So I'm back. I've been gone for several minutes, 15 in fact, just calming down a little bit, and I don't know quite. I think I got to the end that I need to get to really, and re-going or rehashing it in my head is probably not great for a blog. So I'll leave it there that I'll be going to see my mother shortly, waiting for my sister to arrive, and I'll continue with the blog as far as I can get. And it might be best just to move on to the shout outs and just say thank you to all the people that have commented. I haven't been doing my normal through the week of hearting and leaving a comment to say I wanted their comment to stay. And so hopefully all the comments have not disappeared. And I'll read them out verbatim as I always do. I'll answer my questions if my brain will allow it. It's a difficult thing to focus when something like this has happened, so I hope you understand. And so, everybody that watches and supports me, thank you very much. It's gratefully received. It empowers me. I've always said that there were some rules to this. It's a diary, really. It's not anything else. It's a video diary, and that's what I think people sometimes don't like, because you write things in your diary of what's been going on this week, as I've just done in regards to my mother's care and my mother, and anything else that's going on in the week. And so bad and good happen during the week, and thoughts come in and change. So anybody that supports me, great. Anybody that doesn't, just don't watch. So there's been some comments. I'll read them out. They're not in any particular order. These are the people that have left comments. Steve Still Plays Games, Ian Hill The Ramblings, Robert's Retro Gaming, Martroid, Wee Bob Art, and Colin Jones, aka Ponder. And I'm sure there may be more, but the comments might have gone. I can't answer that. I've kept as many people in the know of this as possible, but it's all been concentration on my mum. So if I've left anybody out, don't feel bad. It's just, I can't do everything, and I've been pacing up and down all week and in pain myself. So those weren't in any particular order, and I'm just going to go straight into reading out the comments. So these are in no order, and the first one is Robert's Retro Gaming. Let's see what he's put. He's put, hello, Dell of Delminster Abbey. Nice that we can read out some little jokes and stuff. That always cheers me up. It's fun. Great to see you again. Sorry about your mum's tumble. Yes, he was aware of it because of Discord, I dare say. I don't know how you guard against that really without having her at your side at all times. Yes, something I probably haven't really mentioned, but the physio said be behind her because the Zimmer frame can tilt backwards. That's exactly what saved my mum. So good advice. You couldn't be at the side because of the narrowness of the living room and the hall and the bed, especially in the bedroom where there is a sofa to the left and the bed to the right and a gap of, 3 feet, less than that. So yeah, obviously that is, having her at the side at all times, obviously that isn't practical. It seems that YouTube deleted my comment last week. It's so random and annoying. There you are. That's what I was just talking about. Your gaming stream was enjoyable. I watched it after the fact. Yes. It's an impromptu thing generally when I do a stream. A couple of reasons really. Some negative, some positive. Basically, I don't know when I'm going to get my mum to bed. You can't do it beforehand. It'd be stop, start, stop, start. So it's always when my mum's gone to bed. If you advertise the fact, I wouldn't be able to keep to it. There's one reason. There are people also that target you and want to make your time on the internet a bad a time as possible. If you don't advertise it, they probably won't know. That's the world I live in, and not great. A question that just occurred to me is, do you pay any attention to the Oscar Awards? It's this weekend, I think. What do you think of those awards these days? Thanks for the question on that, Robert. We have actually mentioned it in a previous one because the BAFTAs are before the Oscars. I used to really love the awards. I don't watch them much anymore. I prefer to wait for the results and then probably talk about it amongst my film friends afterwards. The awards ceremony was something that I really, really looked forward to. It also meant that after the awards, you got a glut of films that had not been released because they were contenders, and they like to put their advertising in saying, won 7 awards and all of this sort of stuff. So generally, it's after the awards I look forward to rather than the awards themselves. Many have talked about it, saying that it's now political. Diversity has made a mockery of a lot of things. And, I feel for those people that might think what a harsh thing to say, but it is quite true that the equal opportunities and so forth is there. But I've always turned around and said that only the right actor in the right position should get to play characters, and that I disagree with rehashing of ideas to make it equal. So James Bond becomes Jane Bond, say, or a black actress or actor plays a role in a Shakespearean play. I'm all for different aspects of things, and it can work. But if you're having a major production, I think that it should be done the way it was written. That's just me. Probably old sort of like ideals on that. But I do think that it's gone overboard. At the beginning, it was something that I went, oh, okay, and now it's ridiculous, extreme, I think, but that's me. So no, I don't pay too much attention to them anymore, Robert. I wait for the results and speculate on it. I used to, the only thing I've watched of the Oscars in the last couple of years is the in memorandum bit, with the death of actors and directors and production staff, where I've always found it very poignant and honor those people that we've lost. And we as I grow older, more and more of my childhood is wiped away with the death of these actors and actresses. So that's something that I always look for after the event. That's about it really on that. You put continue, thank you for your support on my channel. No problem. I only support your channel because I watch it. If I don't watch it, I don't mention it. So all the people that I've mentioned in my blogs in the past, the diaries, it's because I've watched them. Sometimes it's due to time that people don't get mentioned. Other times it's because I just don't watch them anymore. They either became samey or, other reasons I can't really think of at this particular instance. But, you can't watch everything. I mean, my God, it is true I watch less and less TV, but I'm a carer. So time is even less, and I don't watch something when I'm on my walk, which I've done very little of this week, as you can guess. So that'll be another reason why I'm not healing quite as well and why I'm in quite some pain. But anyway, that's just a little comment to make there. You got the Heart of Neon pack. Yes, that's exciting. That's the Jeff Minter story that I was on. It was my first Kickstarter, believe it or not. And it arrived this week. Brilliant. I still haven't downloaded the digital content yet. I need to do that. He said, that's exciting. After you've had a chance to watch the documentary, I'd be interested in your thoughts on it. Definitely, I'll be doing that. I missed out on ordering it. That's a shame. I know a few people in the States that did go to the Kickstarter, and I think that there are some YouTube videos on it now. I'll have to check into whether there are any digital options. I'm pretty sure there are, because I got a digital version of the physical stuff well before the physical even arrived. I just haven't downloaded it yet. So I'm pretty sure there are. All the best to you and your mum and family, and thank you very much. And I'll pass that on, Robert. And please keep up your stuff. And if you haven't guessed already, and I mention it all the time, please go and support these people. They have their own channels and they're absolutely brilliant. I may not get to the watch on YouTube stuff this week. My apologies, but it's going to possibly not be possible. Probably not be possible this week for obvious reasons. Salute, my friend, and we move to Steve Still Plays Games. These are not in any particular order. So, see what Steve says. Hi, Del. Loved your blog as always. With all the things going on with you around your mum, I'm more than a little worried about you. And are you taking care of yourself? Try not to. It's the best way. Very nice that you do. Best way is to support me like you're doing, and possibly Discord, which I spend a little bit of time in, but doesn't have anywhere the numbers that my friends have got for their own Discord channels. It's a shame, because Discord offers so many other avenues for people to communicate with me. But it has a loyal base, and it's great that people join that. You continue, are you getting any time to relax and rest? Question mark. As best as I can is the answer for that. I hope you're okay, matey. As for this week, it's been up and down for me. So about average, and I've nothing to really complain about, which makes a nice change. Isn't that great? It's like, always consider things the new norm. Okay, let me throw a question your way. Now, I'll do the best I can here. I'm not saying I'm going to be able to. Looking at classic 70s and 80s UK TV series, if you wanted to combine two different series into a new spin-off, which two programs would you combine? That's a bloody good question, and I wish I had a better brain for answering that, but I'll do my best. What else have you put? Now, you're not allowed to ream them off as a list. Great. Probably that would be the best way. Just two and no more. Okay, I'm done. All the best, my friend, and give your love to your mum. I will. UK only. You think? It's probably going to be stuff that I've watched recently. Let me have a think. How about... now, this is a bit off the rail. The Sweeney and Randall and Hopkirk Deceased. Now, I've watched both of those shows the last 2 weeks, and the only thing I can think of is it could be called the Sweeney Paranormal Division. I don't know. That sounds shit, doesn't it? I'm sorry. Probably sounds absolutely off the wall, but I was just thinking that Reagan could be the new lead. Well, no, not if you're going to call it. Yeah, Reagan could be the new lead, and Marty would be the ghost, and they go and drug bust and things with a ghost in hand to help. Probably too close to Randall and Hopkirk, really, isn't it, for that? Because that's pretty much sort of the things that went on in Randall and Hopkirk disease. Difficult with UK shows. I could combine American and UK shows together, I should think. Because let me think if I put two American shows together, just briefly. How about the $6 Million Man and Miami Vice? Good God, what would that be? Would that be Bionic Vice? God, Jesus. Awful title. Yeah. Steve Austin in a futuristic Miami, paired up with Crockett for digital drugs. To combat digital drugs. I don't know. I'm gonna. What about two American shows? And he did only ask for one to be particular. But what about The Love Boat and Charlie's Angel? No, that wouldn't work. No, forget it. Those two. We'll keep it at that. The Boat of Angels. Oh dear. No, I think I've given the only answers I can give with my brain like it is. But salute, my friend. Thank you very much for the comments. I know that you're on my Discord. I know I've contacted you through it. Thank you so much, my friend. You've got a great channel. Please, guys, go and support him. Brilliant. Salute, and we move on to my next victim, Ian Hill, the Ramblings. He's put, hi, Del Boy. And he's got his own channel, and he supports me great, and we do a weekly thing together. He's put, hi, Del Boy. Hope you are okay and managing to cope with everything. So sorry to hear about your mum and that she may have cancer. This is because on Wednesday I was told that news. So, of course, I've told my friend Ian that is now gone away. Okay, we don't think that's happened, and we don't think that's occurring. Just keep giving her all the love and attention she needs from you. Also, try and get as much rest and sleep as you can. This will give you more strength to help you cope. You need to look after your health too. I thought it had been a better week with my legs and feet, but last night the pain was back with great intensity. However, despite all of this today, I've had a smile on my face because of the recovery of 2 William Hartnell episodes of Doctor Who. It is such great news, and it's from the 12-part Daleks Master Plan story. Yeah, most will know this. I was going to bring it up a little bit later on. So now, after many years, we are down to 95 missing episodes. So it shows there is always hope, and more will be found. My only worry is if these reels these collectors have could, if they hold on too long, be in poor condition. However, I am happy the 2 episodes are back in the archive. Yes, that's always the danger. And just so that you know a little bit of back history on this, we've now got, I think, 5 episodes of this particular 12-part story, and it was found in a collection after the collector had died, and the family were happy for them to be moved on. There is a whole politics part to this, where a lot of stories have not been returned because of fear of being prosecuted. we believe that this person that died was an ex-technician from the BBC, and there's no prosecution after the death. I can understand it to an extent. We don't believe that this is the last. The charity that brought this up about nearly 8 or 9 months ago now, I think, stated more than one, and this is more than one, but the idea, I think, was that there are more to follow. We'll know as the months go on if that's the case. My hope is that there is still more to come. You continue. Enjoyed our live stream with Jamie. It was very enjoyable. I was impressed with the film we discussed, The Peanut Butter Falcon. It was a feel-good movie about a boy with Down syndrome. We had some great discussions. Yes, we had a guest on Ian called Jamie's called Muckman Movies. He very kindly sent both Ian and I a Blu-ray film, Peanut Butter Falcon. Very dangerous, by the way, Jamie. You didn't know whether I had it. As it was, I didn't. And it was very generous of him. And I watched it the week before, but I watched it again the night before, but I couldn't concentrate. So I'm glad I watched it the week before, but I did watch as much of it as I could again the Tuesday night with everything that was going on with my mum. It was difficult. And we had some great discussions. Go and watch that live stream. See a discussion that's, I thought, a very good discussion. It covered major points. I think Ian and Jamie had the better points. I'm always hypercritical of myself, but it was a great film. It's a thumbs up. So if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Brilliant film. Another film I watched, which was a wonderful piece of sci-fi, The Making of Mr. Soames, a 1970 film. It was about a man who had been in a coma since he was born. He would have the brain of a baby, and the scientists had developed his learning skills. They were making a reality TV show about it. Terence Stamp was excellent as Mr. Soames. Also good to see Robert Vaughn as the American psychologist. There was a certain inevitability about the direction it would lead. It was a powerful ending. It sounds brilliant. Yeah, one for me to put on my watch pile. So my question this week is inevitable. Do you think that they will find more missing Doctor Who episodes? And will we ever get those Holy Grail episodes like the 4th episode of the 10th Planet, which, by the way, is the regeneration episode between William Hartnell into Patrick Troughton? What episodes would be on your wish list? It is. From my point of view, I've been optimistic this week as best as I possibly can, and I'll be as optimistic as I can with Doctor Who. Yes, I think more will be found in my lifetime. I hope so. As you've already mentioned, there are 95 episodes now. This was 150 plus when I was collecting Doctor Who on physical media. So we've come down a third. So will there be more? There could be more even now that we don't know about. It's very, very bitty, the information that comes out. They don't want to show their hand and say, yeah, we got 10. They do it in drabs, get you excited, purchase those, then more, we found more. And so it goes on. We will see, and so I'm optimistic about that. What would be on my wish list? Any of them, really. I'm glad that these were William Hartnell ones. I'd love the 10th Planet. That would probably be my holy grail. But I'd like the Highlanders, probably not because it's a great story, but because of its significance of Jamie being introduced as a companion. Patrick Troughton is, as many would know, is my favourite Doctor, and so I'm very sort of like biased, but any that turn up, I'm happy about. So, you know, there have been a glut of Patrick Troughton ones found. I mean, the one before this, we had a good haul of nearly, I think it was about 10 episodes. And one of those was the is it the Web of Fear? I think it's called. Set in the London Underground, which was brilliant, and there's still one episode of those to come back. So yeah, I'm just going to say the 10th Planet and the Highlanders, but that would change daily. If you ask me again tomorrow, it'd be a different kettle of fish. I'd probably be thinking about it as well. And my brain's not that best. So my best wishes to you and your mother. Take care as always and have a reet grand time. He does it with his finger like this. So, and I will. And please go and support him. Absolutely fantastic guy. But we'll move on. I just don't know how long this blog might go on for, with my sister turning up shortly. We get to Wee Bob Art. Such a great guy. What a digital artist he is. And he does more than just that. He does some gaming even now, and film discussion stuff. So let's see what Wee Bob's got to say. He says, hi, Del. I know through your message and other comments regarding your mum. Yes, I think he's part of my Discord and so forth. So he would have probably felt a little bit or heard it during during Ian Hill, the Rambling stream on Wednesday, where I would have touched upon it. Thoughts are with you and your family in these difficult times. I am not sure if you are looking for questions this week, but please ignore this if you're not. Of course, I'm not going to ignore nothing. My question I watched The Vanishing last night, a 1993 film with Sandra Bullock. That movie was very different from what I could remember. Can you name a movie you have went back to and you wondered if they had perhaps changed it quite dramatically from when you originally watched it? For The Vanishing, I don't remember them showing Jeff Bridges' character at the beginning of the movie practicing kidnapping people. Perhaps it's an extended version that they have released, or my memory is tricking me. As I said, all the best wishes to you and your family, and my thoughts are with you at this time. Thank you. That's an interesting one. I'm not going to be very good with this one, Wee Bob, because I'd need to have deep thought on this one. But, I mean, there have been many films I've seen because I never understood it. And a second or even third visit was required. And sometimes when the length of time between watching them, you're definitely going to have a different impression, a different aspect. That's just always going to happen. I mean, two stories that totally fits in with is Tenet and 2001: A Space Odyssey. They require multiple watches. You could watch it the first time and hate it and never watch it again, aka Ian Hill for 2001, and I can totally get that. But even if you watch it the first time, you probably haven't got a clue what's going on. Especially Tenet. My God, that's a time travel story that totally confused the hell out of me. But I'll tell you one that stuck out for me, and it's not that brilliant a film, but it's well loved, and it's Shaun of the Dead. Now, if I remember rightly, when I first watched Shaun of the Dead, I was entertained by it, found it funny. The second time I watched it, I don't know what it is. I think it was Ed. It's the character played by, what's his name? Nick Frost. Yeah. Now, is it in the beginning? Yeah, I think it is. He's talking about his hangover. So the zombie thing is all going on. And he talks about the zombie apocalypse and the pubs. And when I watched it later on, I realised he had actually recited the whole of what was going to happen in that film. Now, I didn't recognize that. Now, that's not quite what your question is, which is why I'm going to have great difficulty with this one. And I'm probably going to have another thought and talk about it maybe next week. I might bring up that question again next week. And I hope what I've given is a good enough answer for now. I do apologize, but it's not really coming to me like, did this seem longer? I swear that's probably right for, what's the film called? The Shutter Island? I swear there were scenes in that I went, did I see that the first time? It's a Leonardo DiCaprio film. It's a mental prison type drama, which is different the second time you watch it, but there were scenes in that I swear weren't in it the first time I watched it. So I know that. So it is a sort of an answer, but I can't explain what it is. Anyway, salute, my friend. And please keep up your stuff on your channel. You started to bring out some stuff now. Thank you very much for that. And please go over and support him. Links are in my description for all of this stuff. And we'll move on because there's not much more to do now. And we get to Colin Jones, aka Ponder, a great friend of mine. He's put all that, so he's answering stuff from last week. So all that extra expense, I think he's talking about the car. Yeah, I know the feeling well, and there's nothing you can do about it. By the way, I had another scare. I bought 4 tires, and when I was taking my sister home on Tuesday, we went to Sainsbury's first to get some supplies. My sister says, your back tire looks flat. And I went, no. And I looked at it and I went, it does, you know. And we're at Sainsbury's, so I drove the car, limped, was going very gingerly. And I got to the petrol station and I could put the pressure into the other 3 tires, because of course you're going to check the other 3 tires when you put your money in to do 3 minutes of air. But I got to the other tire that was flat and it wouldn't even let air in. Now this made me think it's a broken valve. It just passed its MOT, for God's sake. So I thought it might be that the valve has let the air out gradually. So I limped home and I phoned the tyre place up, and they told me that I was stupid to drive with a tyre that was flat. I said I didn't know till I got to the place, and I was half a mile away from my house. Anyway, he said, you need to get the car down here. I said, I can't get the car down there. It's got a flat tyre. Oh, we went through many discussions. My voice got raised, but I wasn't angry with him. And he said, there is a company that you can phone up. It's part of ours, but it's a separate company, but they will charge you 50 quid. And I said, well, look, I just want this. I've got problems going on. I just want this sorted. So I'll phone it up. So he gave me the telephone number. I phoned it up. The guy turned up the next day. He took the tyre off and it pumped up. And I said, but I couldn't do that at the petrol station. He said, well, it pumped up, but let's see whether there's any punctures, because, you know, that's probably what it is. You've gone over a pothole or whatever. But there was no punctures in it. He actually went round, put water all over it, no air bubbles, went round it with a fine tooth comb. And he came away going, I don't know what it is, but you need a new tyre. And because it's inconclusive whether it's a valve or anything else, the tyre will be free. So he put a whole new tyre on, sealed it all up, pumped it up, put it on the car, and then told me he wouldn't be charging me for the charge out, for the call out. So it was totally free. I was taken aback by that and dodged a bullet. There I was thinking I had to come out with another 108 quid plus 50 quid on top of that. And it cost nothing. And I went into the house and got a little bit of money. I think it was a £5. Don't know, it could have been a tenner. And I said, look, you came out, you spent an hour of your time here, taking you away from a paid job. And my dad was always very generous to people that do good work. And you've relieved me during a very stressful situation this week. So please take this. And he reluctantly did. Gave me his card and left. And I just felt I dodged a bullet. And I've got another tyre on my car. Same make. Same type. And it hasn't gone down. So maybe it was just a seal. Or the valve, like I said, don't know. I couldn't put air in. I know that. While it was on the tyre. Well, while it was on the car. He pumped it up while it was off the tyre. Maybe it's that. I don't know. But there you are. There's that. That's just the first line of your section here. So God help us for the rest. What's this put here? £100 for a microwave is about normal. Fingers crossed the rest won't break on you. But they do tend to be a bit more reliable. Yeah. Just to fill you in, when we didn't know about the break, I said to my sister, because a doctor came round and talked about my mother's swallowing. She's finding it difficult to swallow as the vascular dementia comes on. They were telling us that it's best that she have soups and things. We've got no way of heating it without the microwave because the air fryer is on top of the hob. So with the fact that I didn't need a tyre, I charged my way and bought a microwave. Now, it's funny, when I buy anything, I research it like mad, and it gave me the time while I was sitting next to my mum to do a lot of research. And oh my God, is there a lot of research on microwaves? Radiation leaks over time. Not having a microwave really beyond 10 years is the best. We've had this microwave now since 2010, I believe. So 16 years. Radiation around the seals. See, the rubber seals that are around the doors. Catches that loosen over time. Holes that happen because they're made of metals inside. They rust. And most of them are made of ceramic these days. They've got a ceramic inside. All sorts. But if you buy the cheap models, expect them to last a couple of years, and they'll probably have faults. They'll have radiation leaks. They can't test every single one. As long as the door shuts, that's good enough. You see what I mean? So in the end, I did buy one. It was over £100, not too much over the price of a new tyre. It's an LG. I was looking at Panasonics and Samsungs. You know, again, people were talking, they showed videos of these particular models that I was showing. They had grill options and all sorts of stuff of them arcing, you know, the metal arc, you know, the spark that occurs. And I was going, whoa. And on certain YouTube videos, I noticed how flimsy they were, like the door opener. I mean, this Panasonic had such the flimsiest button to open the door. It looked like it'd fall to bits. And this thing was 160 quid. So I went for the one that had good ratings, but very few of them, and very little on YouTube, really. It's called an LG Neo Chef. Seemed good enough to me. I have to look at the ability that we need it for my mum, but when my mum goes, I'm going to need something that probably cooks, whole dinners or preparing of stuff better than I'm doing at the moment. And so the cheaper 60 quid models aren't going to do it. So this one seemed to fit the bill. It uses an inverter. Apparently it's a much better option in regards to microwaves, but makes them slightly larger. I've only got a small amount of space, so this one fitted the bill. It's a 25 litre capacity. The one that we had before was 20, so it's slightly larger. But I couldn't have a 32 litre because an inverter makes the microwave large. I go, do you know what? I could go on forever talking about it, but there you are. A microwave has been bought. Sending my regards to your mum as always, and there's a new challenge. And here's to a less challenging week ahead. It's going to be more now, Colin, if you listen to this. Not a lot to say this week. Crappy early morning shifts means I'm barely awake. It's all fine though. the weather is improving a bit. I wish you the best, my friend. I would never want to wish anybody a bad week, and that goes for anybody that has a disagreement with me. I don't want people to be in pain or disagreements or anything. My question, we've just had the UK entry for the Eurovision released, and for once it's one I like. What do you think of the way the contest has changed in the years since you first remember watching it? Well, I was a child when I was watching it. It's changed an awful lot, and I don't like it. It's become a spectacle, all about dancing, neon, big flashy screens, seeing things from different angles, making it appear like a bloke can walk up the side of a wall while on stage with special techniques that they've used, which are great for the audience. But this is called the Eurovision Song Contest, for God's sake. It's the song. And some of the songs that we've had over the years, they're not even songs from but I'm an old age guy, I think, now, that looks at this thing as with a disgruntlement that takes me away from what I thought was what the Eurovision Song Contest was about. So, bring back, for me, the period of time that I watched it really with fondness was probably the early 80s. Remembering the late 70s stuff. I don't really remember the 60s and 50s where it all started. So that's all I can say about it, really. And I hope that's good enough question. I think it's shocking how it's political, a spectacle, and all of that. Even if it was partly that, growing into it in the 80s, it was in the 90s we had scantily clad women and all of that sort of stuff to try and sell the product. I'm not saying that wasn't going on, but now it's to an extreme. Salute, my friend, and as you guessed, he's got a channel. Please go and support it. It's absolutely wonderful, his channel. And we got the last one here. It's got to say from Martroid. It says, meant to say the other day, Dale, really enjoyed your stream. That Geometry War style game, I think it's called Sectori, looked seriously sharp. And the way you slipped straight into those classic Commodore 64 games titles afterwards was brilliant. I really had fun that day. I have to say this. Bastards who actually mentioned put Daley Thompson's Decathlon on, you little gits. Jesus, my armour. Wow. You even held your own on Whizball. I think I did well on that. And by the way, there was a mistake made in that because I didn't really think about doing my Mister, so I hadn't set it up. And I set the input for my Mister through the mic socket of my Sound Blaster ZE card and hadn't set it to line. So it was acting like a mic and the sound was awful from the games. It's all fixed now. That'll never happen again. So that's great. I'm pretty naff at Whizball myself, but maybe I just need some practice. Anyway, more of that, please, and I'll try. And that's the end of the shout-outs and all the comments and saluting, my friend. I hope that's been good for you guys. I am going to end it there. It's now a time when my sister will nearly be here, and I'm really talking myself out, and I'm getting more and more uncomfortable in this chair. All you need to know, really, when it comes to watched on YouTube is that there's a lot of stuff to watch. Certain names are mentioned before: Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Down the Rabbit Hole, Robert's Retro Gaming, Steve Still Plays Games, Colin Jones, Wee Bob, Maymeister, 20th Century Gaming. Now, all of those I did watch this week. Highlight for me, Wee Bob did a gaming channel episode called What Would You Do in a Zombie Apocalypse? Project Zomboid episode 1. And I want more of that, please, Wee Bob. I continue to watch all the others. They all did fantastic stuff. Robert did a state of his channel update, which is brilliant, and he's diversified as well. He did a little bit more NES and Pico 8 gameplay. Ian Hill, The Ramblings, continues to do his Doctor Who and the X-Files and what he's watched and going live with me. Some other noticeable ones. Mondo Chelevic Movies did a couple this week. I only managed to briefly watch some of those stuff. I could go on more and more and more. I watch This Week in Retro, Tecmo, Gadget Show, Chronologically Gaming. You only have to watch the previous stuff on that. And so I'll end it here, only to say that I'm now going to prepare to get something, a flask for my sister for definite, food maybe, and get a card to my mum and all of that sort of stuff. And so I'm going to say salute, and it'll be hopefully a better week next week. I hope this doesn't come across too damning, too short. And thanks for all the support. I've tried to brighten up towards the end. I'm not doing that very well. And so I'll just end it by saying thank you for everything, you guys and gals, and see you next time. Bye-bye.